Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram, Lakshman Hanuman, Sita Ram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hare Krishna everyone. Today we are going to be reciting the 26th verse of the 18th chapter. So the format that it works is I will recite the first line of the verse and then you can follow and repeat. So hope that's clear. Mukta sango naham vadi dhrityutsaha samanvita Siddhya siddhyo nirvikara Karta satvika uchyate Mukta sango naham vadi Dhrityutsaha samanvita Siddhya siddhyo nirvikara Karta satvika uchyate. Anyone would like to try? Mukta sango naham vadi Dhyut utsaha samanvita Siddhya siddhyo nirvikara Karta satvika uchyate. Mukta sango naham vadi Sava samanvita Siddhya siddhyo nirvikara Karta satvika uchyate. Mukta sango naham vadi Dhityutsaha samanvita Siddhya siddhyo nirvikara Karta satvika uchyate. Any Matajis? Mukta sango naham vadi Dhityutsaha samanvita Siddhya siddhyo nirvikara Karta satvika uchyate. Anyone else? Okay, no worries. Okay, so now we'll go through the transliteration. Mukta Sangha, liberated from all material association. Anahamvadi, without false ego. Dhiti, with determination. Utsaha, and great enthusiasm. Samanvita, qualified. Siddhi, in perfection. Asiddhyo, and failure. Nirvikara, without change. Karta, worker. Satvika, in the mode of goodness. Uchyate, is said to be. One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental to the material modes of nature. He has no expectations for the result of the work entrusted to him, because he is above false ego and pride. Still, he is always enthusiastic till the completion of such work. He does not worry about the distress undertaken. He is always enthusiastic. He does not care for success or failure. He is equal in both distress and happiness. Such a worker is situated in a mood of goodness. So now we'll recite the Mangalacharan. If you know it, feel free to join. Om Agnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. First and foremost, I would like to seek the blessings of all the devotees that are assembled here as well as online. It's my first Bhagavad Gita class in the manner, so please bless me, and also please bear with me if I make any mistakes or say something that's not bona fide. And also feel free to correct and intervene if something's out of line. So with that, we'll begin. Generally, in this material world, there's a general conception that happiness is equal to health plus time plus wealth. And one thing we do realize is that this is actually difficult to achieve simultaneously. For example, when during childhood, you have all the energy and you have adequate time, but you don't have the wealth, you don't have the Lakshmi. And when you grow up and when you engage with your degree or your jobs, you realize you have health, you have money, you're earning now, you have some income, but there's just no time. And during old age, you realize you have all the time in the world and you have wealth, provided obviously you've saved in your pensions. I hope you have. But anyways, but we don't have health during old age. However, Krishna states that even if you have all three, you won't be happy. And this is because in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna says, Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. And what basically this implies is that the living entity's constitutional position is to be a servant of Krishna. And one good analogy to prove this is, if you take a fish out of water, no matter what food you give, no matter how much luxury you give, no matter how much opulence you give, do you think the fish will be happy? No. Yeah. Because its constitutional position is being in water. And similarly, the constitutional position of the living entity is to serve Krishna. That is its eternal function. So the essence of chapter 18, which Krishna states, is that happiness is equal to devotional service. A very simple formula. So with that, we'll begin with chapter 18. So chapter 18 is titled The Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. And here Krishna offers his supreme advice, which basically implies that one should take up bhakti yoga, the most essential spiritual practice. And ultimately, Krishna says this is the purpose of living entity, to be engaged in the devotional service of him. And that way, Krishna will always facilitate him and help him and support him in various ways by being his constant companion. So, as Om Prabhu gave a very wonderful class on Monday, and in that essence, he described that the Gita is actually finished in the 17th chapter. And the 18th chapter, in essence, is basically just a summary of the Gita. So, even with the way the structure of the Gita is, the 18th chapter, verses 1 to 18 are a summary of Karma Yoga, which basically implies you should work, right? And whatever professions you are, ultimately your nature is to do your duty. And last week we discussed some aspects of that. And one thing in Kalpesh and Eric Prabhu's class which was mentioned was that there are 5 causes which bring success to any activity. You want to have a guess what these causes are? Anything? Sorry? The physical body. Yes, the physical body. What else? Sorry? The endeavor. Yes, thank you. The endeavor. And 3 more. Any guesses? The soul. Amazing. Smashed it. Just 2 more now. The Lord. Thank you. And one last one. We're almost there. We've got 4. Senses. Amazing. Thank you. When Subhadra Mataji says, I don't even need to cross-check my notes because I'm assuming it will be right. So yes, as you have mentioned it, like these are the 5 causes. So, but one thing it actually hit me that, like there are 5 causes that determine the success to any activity. And as Krishna says in the Gita that we are the soul, right? We are only one of the 5 causes that bring success to any activity. And it just makes us realize like how insignificant we are in one sense. Not like demean ourselves, but the point being like there's so many factors which are ultimately beyond our control and there's so much we can do. However, Krishna still emphasizes that yes, you must do your endeavor, but in a spirit of detachment by offering the results towards him. Now, that was a summary of Karma Yoga, the first 18 verses of chapter 18. Verses 19 to 14 are a summary of modes of nature. Now, how many of you have heard modes of material nature? Just to get an idea. Okay, cool. And for those you haven't, just to describe it in a nutshell. So modes of material nature are basically everything that governs our activity in this material world, whether it's eating, whether it's sleeping, whether it's doing any physical activity. You mentioned it. It's governed by these 3 modes. And the 3 modes are 1, the mode of goodness. And just in a nutshell, mode of goodness is something that is poisonous in the beginning, but gives pleasure at the end. And the idea is, I think a good example is studying, right? Like no one really likes studying. I think there are a few students and they can relate to that. I've been a student as well. But yeah, the idea is that it's difficult at the start, but at the end we know it's beneficial for us. It's beneficial for career perspectives, and ultimately it will help us grow as a person. So that's an activity in the mode of goodness, studying. And now, mode of passion is basically that has pleasure in the beginning, but then it's poisonous at the end. And a good example, especially I've been a student in the UK, there's a culture of clubbing, and clubbing is nice and all at the moment, but afterwards there's a hangover effect, right? So in that sense, it's one activity in the mode of passion. And then mode of ignorance is an activity that is poisonous at the beginning and at the end. And best example is like procrastination, skipping deadlines, sleeping, because you take anxiety and stress at the start, and you still have the anxiety and stress at the end because nothing is done. So in this chapter, Krishna is emphasizing on the perfection of renunciation. And he's even in the renunciation, it can be done in 3 modes. So in ignorance, renunciation is due to illusion. And a good example is a worker refusing to work. And this could be either due to laziness or maybe he's getting unemployment benefits, so he doesn't see the point of working. And then renunciation could be done in the mode of passion, where he gives up his duty and maybe decides to maybe like either drop out of school and all. Because as students, we are obligated to work, right? And goodness is basically renouncing attachment to the result. And a good example is maybe in the profession of healthcare, where doctors treat their patients. Patient may survive or not, but my role as a doctor is to help cure my patient. But Krishna describes that even higher than that is just doing it for his pleasure. And this is the best outcome. And a good example is of Arjun in this context, where he's fighting in the war simply to please Lord Krishna. So Krishna repetitively emphasizes how the mode of goodness is very important. And with this, he underlines that it's crucial, it's imperative that we try to dovetail our activities in such a manner that we are in the mode of goodness to the best of our capabilities. Now, there are two ways we could go about doing this. One is through the lifestyle that we live. And as Om Prabhu gave on his class on Monday, the idea is simple living, high thinking, basically not being extravagant. But something even arguably more important is character and mindset. And with this verse that we have today, one key line that I focused on was a devotee should always have great enthusiasm and determination. And the best example is our founder, Srila Prabhupada himself. And I'm assuming all of you have heard of Srila Prabhupada, just to get an idea. Yes. And Srila Prabhupada's journey, just I believe, is the epitome of resilience and perseverance. Because at the age of 65, I believe, to go to a abroad country, 69, at the age of 69, thank you for the, yes, at the age of 69, to go abroad in a cargo ship with only rupees 40 and to preach an anti-culture. And especially when you read the Prabhupada Lilamrit, you'll actually see the struggle Prabhupada went through. Like at the start, he literally did not have even a constant accommodation, basic necessities, food, home, food, clothes, but he didn't even have like a constant place to live in. And he had to live amongst hippies and drug addicts. But it was just that resilience that, yes, because my spiritual masters instructed this, I must preach at all costs. So, and actually Krishna is pleased with that sincere attitude. That's what ultimately is important. So, this session will mainly dive into how we can transform our struggles into strengths. Once Prabhupada was going to a car and he was stuck in a traffic jam. And the sign said that temporary roadworks, temporary inconveniences, permanent solutions. And Prabhupada just laughed at disciples and he said, no, it's actually the opposite. Material world means temporary solutions, permanent inconveniences. As the phrase goes, Dukhalyam ashashvatam. This place is full of sorrows and miseries. And if you want to make Krishna laugh, I think the best way is tell him your plans, right? Because generally we have a lot in plan, and what actually happens is quite different. Nowadays you see a lot of cars which have the sign like, do not disturb, already disturbed. So it's one asset like, and there's this king actually, and he gave his subjects an award that they could earn. So the idea was, he said to his subjects, bring me something that will make me happy when I'm sad, and sad when I'm happy. And one of his subjects bought a box and told him, look at it. Now the king was thinking, how is this box related to my desire, my demand that I've asked? But then when he opened the box and it had a stone, it stated the phrase, this too shall pass. So that's one very important aspect of material world, this temporality. Like everything is temporary. As Lord Krishna says in the second chapter of Gita, matra spashtastu kaunteya stitoshna sukha dukkhada agama payino nityastam stitik sashva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance or disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. And again, this basically implies the nature of this world is everything is temporary. So in one sense, why have the attachment? Because it's anyways going to diminish, right? Whether it's good or bad. And once there was a teacher, and the teacher asked the student, how heavy is that cup of water? So some students were like, oh, it's 5 ounces, 10 ounces. But the teacher made a very important point, that it's heavy for how long you hold it. And in one sense, this is applicable to our own personal lives, right? Because this water represents all our difficulties, all our challenges, all our obstacles. And sometimes it's very easy to go into that mentality of just like holding grudges, holding resentments. But in the long run, it's neither good for you nor good for the other person, right? And this is where like one thing I wanted to focus on, like sometimes it's very easy to fall into that trap of victim mentality, right? And the problem with victim mentality is that you put the control of your life into factors that are outside your control. Because Krishna says in the Gita, right, the essence is take control of your own happiness. So there are three things that I want to discuss mainly with this trap of victim mentality. And the first obstacle is that problems in our life won't come. And in a sense, if you have unrealistic expectations generally, you'll tend to suffer, right? Now, in this audience, I was just curious, how many of you have had some challenges, whether it could be something like health or maybe something that did not go according to plan? Any idea? Yes. So when it happened, were you surprised by it? Or did you expect it? Yeah, naturally. But that's the thing, right? Because in one sense, the nature of this world is nothing goes according to plan. Everything is temporary. But we still get shocked, right? And because this is the mentality that obstacles won't come. But the reality is, as long as you're in this world, there will be problems, there will be obstacles, there will be challenges, there will be difficulties. And this is one really good story that I really loved. How many of you are at least familiar with tennis? Like the sports, it's a sports with two rackets. And yes. And I'm assuming you have an idea of like the formats that goes, like Wimbledon. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so basically there's this tennis player and his name was Arthur Ashe. And this is a player who had won Wimbledon, right? So in one sense, he had hit the pinnacle of his profession. But at a certain point, he had a heart condition. And now he was supposed to have a heart transfusion. But due to the mistake from the doctors, the same transfusion that was meant to save his life made him get an HIV terminal illness. Now, even like for big personalities, it's very prominent that they can fall trap to this. Now, a fan asked him, like obviously many fans send their sympathies, like why did this happen? And one fan in particular highlighted, why did God choose you? And I think his replies, I think is a very good example of having that expectation that obstacles arise. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Gaur Nitai ki. Yeah. And basically to his reply to his fan, he mentioned that in the tennis circuit, right, 500 million people desire to play tennis. 50 million kids learn to play tennis. 5 million learn professional tennis. And of that 5 million, 5,000 reach a professional circuit. And 500 may each reach a Grand Slam. And of those, 50 reach Wimbledon. 2 reach the final, 1 wins. When I had the trophy in my hand, I did not ask God, why me? So in my cancer, why should I ask, why me? And this just shows the mentality that, yes, obstacles are part of life. And in one sense, they are important to strengthen our willpower and to strengthen our resilience. Now, the second thought that we can fall trapped to is that all obstacles are bad. And from the scriptures, there's this important character called King Chitraketu. How many of you have heard of him? Yes, okay. For those who haven't, just to give a context, if you think your life is dramatic, try to be Chitraketu. Because this personality, he had a very dramatic life. His life is arguably the epitome of turbulence. So first, he was a wealthy king. He had opulence, he had fame, power. But material world is like that there'll always be one thing that is in shortage. And he didn't have a son. So, however, through the grace and association of Narmani, he got a blessing that he would have a child named Harsha Shoka, which means it gives happiness and distress. Now, initially when one of his queens gave birth to the child, everyone was jubilant. He finally had something that he wanted from a long time. He got a son. But after that, he realized, obviously, now he finally has a son. He gave more attention to that queen, which gave him that son. And this naturally arose envy from the other queens. And it's actually sad, how sometimes envy can cloud people's judgment and intelligence. And they actually ended up poisoning the baby. Imagine, small, innocent baby got poisoned before he could even live this world. But anyways, it was destined. So obviously now the king was in a crucial pain, right? Why? I had so much austerity, like, I spent so much years for the son, and now he passed away. Not even, at least, okay, if he died by a tragic accident, here he got poisoned by my own wives. So, anyways, Narad Muni came back again, and obviously, like, he asked for guidance from Narad Muni, and he told the dead baby to wake up. And obviously, now this baby began to speak transcendental realization. Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantar prapte derastatra namoyati. As the embodied soul continually passes from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly, the soul passes from one body to another. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. And this basically, like, through this realization, Chitraketu was able to understand the temporal aspect of this life. And eventually he went on to become a great saint. But life had it such a way that he again got cursed. And that's because he accidentally offended Lord Shiva and got cursed by his consort, Lord Parvati. Now he was cursed to be a demon. So now he became happy again. Now due to this curse, he had to take birth as a demon. And finally, when he did become a demon though, he did offer praise to Lord Krishna and eventually attained him. So at least it ended well, right? But the point being, he had a very dramatic life. And the more point being, like, even though he was cursed to be a demon, he accepted it and still engaged in devotional service or love of Lord Vishnu. And with Ram Navami coming, another classic example of this is Lord Ram himself, right? When he was exiled, his reaction wasn't like, I've waited like 12 years for this, right? I've waited my entire life, and why are you exiling me? No, he happily accepted it. And he even told Queen Kaikeyi, that you didn't have to tell my father to instruct me. If you had told me from yourself, I would have happily gone to the forest. And he in fact saw that bad obstacle as an opportunity of learning, because by going to the forest, you would have the association of great sages, great personalities, and from them he would be able to realize knowledge. And just as a tangent, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is basically the spiritual master of Prabhupada, he gave an example of a couple rowing a boat for the entire night. So they started rowing and they had to reach a certain destination. And persistently they were rowing the entire night. But then when morning came, when the sun was shining, they realized they were at the same spot. Why do you think that was the case? Yes, that's it. So basically, they didn't lift the anchor. And the essence of this is like, even in our spiritual lives, right? If you just chant, read, serve, however, if the anchor of material attachment is there, we'll just be going in circles. So life is about removing that anchor, having that detachment. And the last point is, obstacles are insurmountable. And this is one mentality that can be a weakness. And the idea is to obviously have the strength and willpower to overcome difficulties. Obviously, easier said than done, right? Like, we can have all the realization, all the planning, but when the event does happen, like, it hits us, like, oh. And sometimes it overwhelms us, like, we can't think things straight. But one pastime that I hope can inspire you, again, with the advent of Ram Navami, I'm giving a lot of examples from Ramayana. So one really good example I loved, obviously Hanuman is one of our favorite characters in Ramayana, and he found himself in a similar situation. Now Hanuman, at this point, he had crossed the ocean between Lanka and India. So you can imagine, like, the amount of obstacles he had to go through, the amount of demons he had to fight, the amount of sleepless nights he had to bear. And now he's desperate to find Sita, because in one sense, Lord Ram had relied on him. But despite giving his best, despite searching every place that was possible, nothing was happening. And sometimes we find ourselves in a similar situation, like we are trying everything that we can do in our capability, but nothing's changing. And at this moment, this is how Hanuman felt. And Hanuman was now sitting in like absolute depression. He was feeling low. He was feeling despondent and hopeless. And this is not a modern day situation. Even great exemplary personalities like Hanuman, go through difficulties, they go through depression, they feel low, they feel hopeless. But at this moment, Hanuman thought, like, I'll just this is the point of living. What do I do? Lord Ram relied on me. I couldn't carry out one of his tasks, just one instruction. So it's better I die. And this actually stated in Valmiki Raman. He was thinking of that. And he thought of 3 options. 1, he could either starve to death. 2, he could either jump into the sea. Or 3, jump into a power fire. Because he was thinking at this moment, right? If I don't find Sita, Ram will die. If Ram dies, Lakshman will die. If Ram and Lakshman die, Kaushalya and Sumitra, their mothers will die. And all of them will die. And I'll be the cause. And that's the nature of our mind, right? It just takes things to extreme. It exaggerates everything. And it basically magnifies our problems more than they necessarily should be. But then, obviously at this point, he was thinking, whilst he was contemplating this, he realized that in certain situations, sometimes it's good to take inspiration from a higher source, from a higher power. And at this moment, he just slightly turned towards the direction of Ayodhya while he was in Lanka. And by feeling the cool breeze and current, he was trying to experience Lord Ram in the air. And this gave him the intelligence, this gave him the confidence. If I do commit suicide, nothing's going to change, right? What's the point of giving up my life? I might as well try. And because if I keep persevering, something will eventually happen. Because no lockmaker has made a lock without a key. Where there's a will, there's a way. So the solution is looking for that key. And just that shift in that moment, he realized that there was one spot that he didn't check. Any ideas what that spot was? Sorry? Ashoka Vatika. Thank you so much. Yes, that was Ravan's personal garden, the Ashoka Vatika. And hence sometimes the key is taking inspiration from a higher source. And even the 18th chapter of the Gita states a very important verse. Machita sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi atha chetvam ahankaran nasroshyasi vinakshyasi. If you become conscious of me, you'll pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. And the idea is, don't tell Krishna how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big Krishna is. And the idea is how devotees... I got it from a lecture, so you can give all glories to Keshav Maharaj. It was his lecture. So devotees transfer pain and problems into purpose and progress. So whenever something bad happens, it's easy to get overwhelmed. But at this moment, look for a higher source. Seek a broader perspective. And see the good that you must develop to counteract the bad. Because peace is not the absence of chaos. Peace is the presence of Krishna in every situation. And with that, I just wanted to ask one question. Do you think Krishna wants you to have a comfortable life or uncomfortable life? Yeah. I mean, yeah, anyway. Comfortable, yeah. Uncomfortable. Why? Ooh. You said my point in my lecture, but Siddhan, you're saying comfortable, right?
No, I was saying ultimately.
Yeah. Okay. Any Matajis? What do you think? Comfortable or uncomfortable? Comfortable. Why?
Because Krishna loves us and doesn't want us.
Yes. Okay, Kalpesh? Ooh, that's a solid. No, I think all answers were right. And basically, like Surya Mataji said, Krishna is your best friend, right? And obviously, he has the best wishes for you. And he wants you to have a comfortable life. But, there's a big but. He wants you to be comfortable in Krishna conscious. So, some people are comfortable in material life. Some people are comfortable in spiritual life. But finally, the objective, the ultimate aim is to be comfortable in Krishna consciousness. And this is the reason why obstacles are very important, because they help us take that high level of surrender, to take inspiration from Krishna. And like Ananta Chitta Prabhu was saying, like uncomfortable, like discomfort is important, because anything that puts you out of your comfort zone helps you grow as a person. And I just wanted to share a perfect reflection. I think of all services that we do, just a general consensus. Like, I think it's fair to share that book distribution is the one that definitely puts us out of our comfort zone. You agree or not? I wonder, bro, you have something to say? Like, what's of all the services that we have? Yeah, I agree. What are yourself, my Varna bro? What are your thoughts? You agree, right? Yeah. And I still remember when I went out to my first book distribution, and especially like it was part of my SSP, and also like other devotees, and some of these devotees like Rasika Rai Prabhu, they are on another level, and they just give books like in half an hour, like in 10 minutes, like they just books are flying out. And then at that moment, like I was just thinking, okay, cool, this is good and all, what am I supposed to do? And obviously I think everyone can relate to that, like especially a first book experience, like experience of book distribution, you tend to remember it. And I think it was like 6 hours, and I hadn't even like forget about distributing a book. Like just having a conversation was difficult. Like so, at this moment I was just like, okay, mate, like this is not my thing, and my confidence was rock bottom. Like I've never felt that low in my life. And then at that moment, I thought deeply. Okay, like I just prayed to Lord Krishna, like Lord Krishna, look, look, mate, I'm trying to serve you sincerely. Like just help me. Like at this moment, I don't think I've prayed that sincerely in my entire life. Like. And the most amazing thing is, like, this is just like this Mataji who comes, and so she just speaks about her interest in spirituality, and then she ended up buying 4 books. So I went from 0 to 4, and then I was just like, wow, this is amazing. But then I realized it was a situation that made me have that level of surrender, because I still remember at that moment I decided, like, just help me with this, Krishna. I'll give up every material desire. I'll stop watching cricket. And for Indian, to give up cricket is considered like a religion, right? And I was like, yeah, just I'll give all bad thoughts, all negative thoughts. Just help me this moment. And needless to say, obviously, I continued watching cricket, but that was after 2 months. But anyways, point being, like, this uncomfortable situation arouses that high level of surrender. And ultimately, this is what makes you grow as a person. Yeah, so just to repeat the points, it's easy to get into the victim mentality. And there's 3 mentalities which are not good. One is the mentality that obstacles won't come. They will come. This is the material world, right? It's a prison cell. You're bound. The reason you're here is to suffer, right? Secondly, obstacles are bad. But we see that, no, they can actually be good, because the idea is that they help you approach Krishna and have a high level of surrender. And in that surrender, that's when Krishna truly reveals himself. And thirdly, obstacles, there's a mentality to see that obstacles are insurmountable. They're difficult to overcome. But Krishna says, no, again, the same logic. Like, the idea is not to tell your problems, not to tell Krishna how big your problems are, but to tell your problems how big Krishna is. And with that, I'd like to conclude my class. So if you have any questions and answers, feel free to go. Oh my God. Okay, guys, have mercy. Okay, let's go with Eric. I can trust Eric. He's my course mate in Bhakti Shastri. Yeah, go for it, Eric. Krishna.
Just would like to ask if you could little maybe break down the meaning of the verse, because I'm trying to understand it, not quite sure about the one who performs his duty without association with the moods of material and the moods are always there.
Hmm.
And also Bhagavad Gita explained that the activities of in this world are just the interactions with
Hmm.
material moods,
Hmm.
and also without false ego.
Hmm.
So my understanding is that yeah, the false ego is that I do something. So how can somebody be doing something and be without this ego?
Very good. Yeah.
If you could say
Of course.
something
Yeah.
on that.
Thank you for the question. Okay. Let's break it down. Firstly, you said without association with the modes of material nature. And in one sense, the idea is obviously having that pure level of surrender to Lord Krishna, right? And it's a framework in the sense that it's a journey, like the idea is to reach that stage where although we are interacting in this world, we are doing every activity with the intent to serve Krishna. So rather than the action itself, what's more crucial and what's more even important is the intent behind it. For example, you could be working in a very corporate job, right? You could be working in like Google, right? You might be earning good amount of wealth and all. But the idea is like you're very clear that you want to have it to serve Krishna, and that's whether through service or through donations or charity, right? Now, regarding false ego, like the idea, the underlying message is often, obviously, when you do a lot of activities, when you take a lot of responsibilities, one of the biggest victims in our life is pride, right? That's why I like this point which Keshamar said, like the attitude of a devotee should be fallen but hopeful. And fallen in the sense that we have all been at a stage where we have done activities that we are not happy with, right? In fact, in Bhagavatam, like the fifth canto actually, it says that one of the attitudes of devotees that he should always be sincerely repentant and guilty of his like previous bad activities. Now, in one sense, you might think, why is it that like fear-inducing, right? But the idea is to remember, like first of all, our beginnings, what we were, and to see, have gratitude to our teachers that the process works, right? And secondly, to also have that level of compassion to connect with people, that I've been there and I know how it is, like so that, and even more important than that, it just keeps us humble, right? That is due to this process that I'm able to go. So without false ego, the idea is not to have that pride, and hopeful in the sense to have, to inspire us that this process works, that it has transformed me as a person, it has helped me uplift my consciousness, it has given me the association of great devotees. So with that inspiration, we are able to serve with enthusiasm and determination. Hope that helps. And I think we have just time for one final question. Sorry? Yeah, bro. Yes, sir. Yeah.
When I was reading the translation,
Hmm.
I found that with the one who perform his duty without association with the mode of material nature,
Hmm.
and one of the mode of material nature is mode of goodness as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
And in the other part, it is said worker in the mode of goodness.
Hmm. Hmm.
So isn't it contradicting?
Worker in the mode of goodness. Okay, good question. Okay, with the modes, just to give an idea, right? It's not like it's either an activity is in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. One thing with modes you need to realize, it's like the colors of painting: red, color, blue. So all three modes act at the same time, but it's about which mode is prominent. So with the first one, like idea is like in the mode of goodness, in the last line, which emphasizes it's the idea is to be in the pure mode of goodness without any like. Yes, that's it. That's the word. I was coming to that. Yes. And because even like every activity that we do, like there will be some modes that we do. For example, take something like chanting, right? Now, chanting could be done in the mode of, like getting liberation, going to Vaikuntha, escaping from this material world, which is great, don't get me wrong. But the ultimate mode of goodness, like pure goodness, is to chant because it pleases Krishna. So the idea behind that is like to be a worker in the mode of goodness, the idea is to ultimately aim to reach that pure mode of goodness. And obviously it's a journey, and naturally with time and through the mercy of Vaishnavas, we can get there. Hope that helps. Thank you. Okay, one final question down through. Yeah.
I think what about ground association, like the brain being that we don't identify with the body, these modes which you nature,
Mm.
they're not us, that we're the soul,
Mm.
because
Yes. Mm.
still living modes,
Mm.
beings.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for insight. So basically, just to repeat what Damodar Prabhu was saying, like, because another way of looking at it is like, ultimately we are the souls, right? And in one sense, modes of material activity, like they're material, right? So in that sense, you could still be like serving Krishna. Yeah. But obviously having that realization that you're a soul, that again takes time. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's that from my side. Thank you for your engagement, and please forgive me if I said anything that was not in line. And yeah, what do we? Okay, I think now we'll have Gaurati, and yeah, we could just go for that. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai.
Peace is not the absence of pain.